Hey everyone, welcome to Zun Canada. I'm your host, Jesse Betteridge. This, of course, is a podcast looking at the connections between anime and Canadian media, and there has been a lot to talk about, and despite that, it has been about 6 months since I last put an episode out. However, not a single person has asked me, when is the next episode of Zun Canada coming out? So I think I got away with it. I think we're okay. Joining me again after this hiatus, for the first time in a while, is Geoff and Yazy.
Woo woo woo.
Take a quick moment to introduce yourselves, just in case anyone is unfamiliar with you folks.
Well, I am Geoff Thu. I run Mother's Basement on YouTube, and this is Yazy.
Excuse you. My name's Yazy. I can introduce myself. That's it. My name's Yazy. Best girl Yazy. I occasionally make shitty videos on YouTube. Sometimes, maybe.
They're extremely good.
Mostly, I mostly just shitpost on Twitter.com. That's all.
Yeah. So she's Best Girls Basement on YouTube. We also have a podcast together, Geoff and Yazy's Basement Life, which we also have. We post all the time. We post it on schedule all the time, just like you, Jesse. So.
It's a podcast, so, it's fine. This also I have a question. Do you have a basement now?
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
You have your own basement at long last.
Yes. Yeah, our last place didn't have a basement. Maybe Geoff should admit the truth behind his name.
Yeah, I've never, like, my original house didn't have a basement. My mom's house doesn't have a basement either. It's a townhouse, an elevated townhouse. So the only time that we had a basement was this one place that we rented where we didn't really have a basement because half of the basement was the landlord's storage.
So yeah, there's only been a basement briefly, but the true lie is that for the first few years of Geoff's channel, there was no Mother's Basement.
It's all just a few technicalities here and there, but for the most part, you've been living a lie. I'm glad you finally fessed up.
Yeah,
coming clean.
It feels good. It feels good to have that off my chest.
Yeah, so it's been a little while since we last put out an episode. The truth is, the stuff we usually talk about on this show, which is, issues with streaming, issues with broadcast, just with the general state of the world right now, it's just a little hard to focus on these things to the extent we usually do. Usually I do news roundup episodes where we kind of look at things and we kind of talk about the same things over and over again. And I think I'm going to kind of stop doing that moving forward. However, everything has just been happening at an unbelievable unbelievable velocity over the last couple of months. So I think it's a good idea if we just take a moment to kind of go over things again. I think we do have some actual substantive news to talk about this time. And I don't know, you guys, what do you think we should get into first? Sony basically devouring the entire anime industry, or the stream apocalypse that's been starting on HBO Max and probably spreading to other services soon?
What do you think, Yazy?
I for one am angry still about RightStuf.
Yeah, that oh man, so, that one burned us.
If anyone needs to be brought up to speed, Sony, who owned Funimation, has of course devoured Crunchyroll, and they've completely phased out the Funimation brand. Everything has been folded into the Crunchyroll site right now. And just in the last few weeks, they announced much more surprising news that they have acquired the online store RightStuf. They are now owned by Crunchyroll and presumably going to be phased out and replaced by the existing Crunchyroll store or merged together somehow. It's not really clear right now, but some big changes coming to the way a lot of people buy their physical media. That's for sure.
They got rid of their free shipping to Canada about a month ago. There was like a $100 thing for free shipping to Canada, or $200, and they got rid of it, which is a big deal because now you're paying, $200 for shipping if you want to buy a bunch of manga on.
Yeah.
So like it ended up being cheaper for me during their birthday sale to buy manga from Indigo, which sucks. Which for Americans is like Barnes and Noble.
And the other thing is like they brought it back on the last couple days of their birthday sale.
On the last day, and it had a $300 minimum. They said if you spend $300, you get free shipping to Canada.
Which is like
on the last day of their birthday.
When everybody had already spent all of the money they were going to spend.
Yeah, the old tactic was to wait until their Christmas sale or their holiday sale and then pile as many things as you can into one $250 US dollar order and get the free shipping and get it then. But now it seems that you want to wait until they're offering the free shipping which they'll still do, but they'll only do it as a promotion during a limited period.
Won't know either. You can't count on it.
Yeah,
And the chances that they offer that free shipping at a time that overlaps with one of their good sales, I'd say probably pretty low. So, if you rely on RightStuf, that's pretty annoying. Getting rid of the free shipping actually predated the Crunchyroll acquisition.
I don't know. My guess is that they had already made that deal because it was only a month ago that they got rid of it. So my guess is that they had already made that deal and that they didn't.
Or we're at least in talks.
Yeah.
I mean, I would figure.
They used increased, inflation and increased
and if
shipping
Sony owns them, I feel like that's not a good excuse. Once Sony owns you, there's no excuse. Sony can afford shipping to Canada.
Yeah, but Sony also wants to maximize their profits and minimize their costs in all possible ways all the time.
Sony doesn't have the best track record for even getting their own DVDs into stores up here. I've noticed with some titles they've released over the years have had really limited distribution, despite the fact that you'd think they'd have some of the strongest distribution channels in the world. So you can't always depend on that kind of thinking.
Well, I mean, now that they own RightStuf, they do own like a pretty good distribution network.
Yeah.
But the question, like you said, is if they're going to dismantle it to make the Crunchyroll store the thing, or if they're going to, they'll probably fold that into the store, but it's like.
Yeah, I mean, if I can think of maybe one positive, and I gotta say, when Sony bought Crunchyroll and then merged everything together with the streaming brands, obviously it's blatant monopolization, but there are some positive things you can pick out from that. There are some consumer-friendly developments that come from that a lot of people agree on and make things easier for, just normal viewers. I'm a lot more hard-pressed to think of any kind of positive for Sony buying out RightStuf. I think the only thing is that now that Sony is also consuming Nozomi Entertainment, those titles might be more readily available through other venues. Like maybe we'll finally see Gundam titles actually popping up in like Amazon.ca and Sunrise Records where you couldn't get them before. Or at least if anything that came up on Amazon.ca would be really overpriced because there'd be an import premium on it.
Yeah, one of the other, I guess, upsides, small upside, but it was probably again another like precursor to this deal going through. But a little while before this was announced, Captain Tyler and I think Aria and a few other Nozomi-owned properties ended up on Crunchyroll. So that's good. Those were already available for free on YouTube through Nozomi Entertainment. So like, not that good, but still they're higher definition and in a place where more people might see them.
Yeah, so, you'd think that more people would find things on YouTube, but the reality is that YouTube's it's just too much. Your algorithms aren't going to point you to content like that most of the time. So if you're looking for a show to watch, you're much more likely to find it on a streaming service that you're paying for, even if it's available somewhere for free as well.
Well, I mean, we've just fallen out of the habit of going to YouTube to watch anime the way that we used to back in the day, in 4 parts at 360p.
I saw people uploading entire anime episodes to TikTok in 3-minute parts. So we've come full circle.
Oh wow,
we have come full circle. Yeah. Except now they're like cropped to square aspect ratios, right?
So
okay, that's the way the kids like it. So in our day we made a big deal about getting things in the proper aspect ratio, but today's kids, they want things chopped off of the picture. They don't want the full context. Come on.
These kids today, they're much bolder than our generation. I bet that they would be happy to watch like Demon Slayer, not just cropped, but like squished from 16:9 to 9:16 portrait mode. Just squish the whole screen. They'd be fine with it. They live different. They don't care if something's scuffed or deep fried or.
I think the issue is that we're too picky when it comes to that kind of thing. Our standards are in
a
place they shouldn't be.
Don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You're right, Yazy. You got a head start on some of us in the whole growing up on the internet thing, but like all of Gen Z has completely grown up on the internet, and like TV and stuff accustomed us to a certain like broadcast standard of quality, right?
Yeah,
where like
I mean, I still have 1 foot in the 90s, so that's why I'm still holding this torch for broadcast stuff, which I'll admit is definitely not as important as it used to be, but it completely warps the way I evaluate any kind of audio video media and how you watch it and how you access it. So I guess I can't fully recalibrate to the modern reality in some ways the way the kids can.
These they're scrappy. They've been just out in the wild of the internet their whole lives. They know sometimes you just like sometimes for the sake of survival you just got to accept that your video is going to be super chunky and in the wrong aspect ratio, and the subtitles will be completely wrong, and that's fine. That's just the way of the world. And I honestly admire it the same way I admire Spike Spiegel's ability to roll with the punches.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? In some ways, that's better than some of the technical problems that have happened with the titles that have been like mass dumped onto Crunchyroll. I don't think anybody seems to have noticed that the dub episodes of Sleepy Princess and Demon Castle, they're completely out of sync on Crunchyroll.
Are they?
We've sent my girlfriend and I have sent complaints. Nobody has done anything about it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds, oh man, I wonder what wrong setting in the Premiere render led to that.
Because there's a Funimation logo at the beginning that's not accounted for with the audio, and they just missed it on a bunch of episodes.
Huh. So it's off by exactly the dun, 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 that whole jingle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That goes on for like 10 seconds. Funimation always had a way too long intro. Oh, that's going to be so frustrating.
They workshopped it so much over the years, but they never made it shorter, which was kind of the more important thing.
I think that they lost their way as soon as it stopped whispering into our nightmares. You should be watching.
That was horrifying. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm not expecting very many good things to come from this, even if you can get Nozomi titles from some other distributors soon. But there is one other big change that's happened the second that Sony took over RightStuf, and that applies to the porn, of course. All of it's been purged, and there's a new site coming, I understand, called ArrowAnimeStore.com. I checked it out. It's the most laughable default template of a website.
But like, from what I understand, it's not even right. Like, they're not RightStuf affiliated. It's not. From what I understand, at least, I can't say this for sure because I haven't looked much into it beyond the first day and a half it broke. But from my understanding, it is a completely different company, and like to the point of they're not allowed to transfer over the pre-order information. Like, people who had pre-orders for 18 plus material with RightStuf have to give their payment info to the new company, which
I think they're headquartered somewhere else too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's if it was the same company that just like split off, I don't think they would have to recollect everybody's information and stuff. So yeah, I don't love that they just like handed it to somebody else. And yeah. Like, yep, your stuff's over here now. Bye. And like, there's no record of your pre-orders either. Somebody had tweeted at me a screenshot of what their order history looked like, and because they had ordered Interspecies Reviewers, and it's just gone. It's just not even there. There's no proof they ever even pre-ordered Interspecies Reviewers. It's just gone.
And that's not even technically hentai.
It's not porn, yet they chose to market it as porn, so it gets it just gets put into that category. I think the same thing happened with Media Blaster's re-release of Ladies vs. Butlers. They just chose to release it under their pornographic label, so it gets pulled off of RightStuf along with all that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally anything that got has an adult anything that has an explicit label on it was just pulled right away. But also to make it disappear from people's pre-orders, that really, I don't know why that sits with me the wrong way. I don't have a reason. It just sits with me wrong that they can't even they're that afraid of it, of having it in their website history or whatever, that people can't even see the name of the thing they pre-ordered. Well,
that's the thing. As soon as you're owned by a major media company in the United States, it's like they even if they have some tangential connection to it, they're going to go out of their way to obscure it or cut it off if they can. And it seems that in this case, they didn't really have a backup plan properly in place for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is understandable just given the media landscape of the United States. Somebody looking for a quick late night news story to fill time on a slow day can throw together a piece about, this streaming service that streams cartoons has a store where you can buy cartoon porn. So it's understandable to want to avoid that controversy. And I think like you said, pretty much any major business in the United States is going to cover their ass the same way. But it's
amazing that Fry's in the States could avoid that kind of controversy for so long.
Barnes and Noble sells Faku titles, so I don't know if that really applies, because Barnes and Noble sells Faku titles, right? You can buy not just interspecies reviewers, but you can buy Faku titles directly from Indigo and Barnes and Noble and stuff, physical copies of them and stuff. So I don't really think it's even that they're covering their, but I just think that they don't.
Yeah, Sony's extra. Sony's extra overcautious or overzealous about it, about keeping that stuff away from their brand. There's zero quality control on the PlayStation Store, but you can't get hentai on there. Or you can't even get cleavage in some games that had cleavage before. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean that's I think it's important to separate Sony video games from Sony Pictures, because they are operated differently, and the people who kind of conflate that together, it's kind of that gets conspiracy theorists a lot, and I think I definitely
I know what you mean. I don't want to fuel those conspiracy theories when I say that. It's important to note that not only do a lot of Sony businesses not work with each other, they actively compete with each other. It's a really weirdly run company. There's just a lot of weird non-cross communication there, and they Sony Music has its own investments in anime that are separate from Sony Entertainment and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, as a trend, it does seem Sony management as a whole is really, somebody high up at the company is really sketched out about erotic content and stuff like that.
There's definitely
about boobies. They're scared of boobies. Just say it.
They're scared of boobs.
Yeah.
So one of Sony's CEOs was they probably were, they were probably an ordinary executive, right? And then one day they were just out and about in Tokyo. One of the Tenga stores was getting the delivery. The truck tipped over. They got covered in silicone boobs. And since that day, they have needed to purge them from every thing they have control over.
Every piece of media possible. No boobs allowed.
It's kind of weird that since Crunchyroll, for the most part consumed Funimation, they've been much worse when it comes to having home video versions of shows available on streaming as well. Although it seems to be more incompetence and chaos than anything, because they have it uncensored versions for some shows but not others. But then you have they're still licensing more recent titles Harem in the Labyrinth and World's End Harem, and you really have to question what the point of even licensing those are if you're only going to have these heavily censored versions, which
pop-up windows. Pop-up windows are great. I like looking at pop-up windows. That's what I want to look at when I click on a show called Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. That's what I want to see is pop-up windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. They're like, those, I think, they just get the broadcast version sent over from the Japanese licensor. So I think how heavily censored content appearing on Crunchyroll is to an extent out of their hands and like has to do with, what they're supplied. But it is still weird that they don't like.
I mean, just throwing it out there, if High Dive had licensed titles like that, owned by the much more freewheeling AMC, which is another thing we probably need to touch on. They definitely would go out of their way or do everything they can to get the
uncensored,
most uncensored version they can. Since it's, frankly, regardless of what you think of that type of content, I think if you're paying for a service, you should definitely be able to access the least censored version of it, because you're paying for a premium service, and people can laugh at High Dive all they want for being the horny site, but that gives them a competitive edge over Crunchyroll and the others. But I guess Crunchyroll competes just by licensing the show anyway, and then just not. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's not even a competition between them and High Dive, really, because like Crunchyroll's a major streaming player, right? Like they're one of the biggest streaming apps. They've got like over 1 million subscribers. They have an order of magnitude larger library than High Dive ever will. So like High Dive's got to prioritize making the titles that they do have as appealing to the audience that wants to see them as possible. And I mean, I think it makes sense as a business model, considering that like Funimation and Crunchyroll have shown to be kind of hesitant to snap these titles up, and like that's the angle that High Dive can attack it from, of having these as uncensored as possible, available in high quality streaming. So yeah, I think like the people who would make those calls at Crunchyroll and like be like, hey, can we get the uncensored version of Harem in a Labyrinth in Another World before you start sending that material out to us for Blu-rays in 6 months to a year? They just don't bother, because like, I mean, that time can be spent promoting My Hero Academia or Demon Slayer or a cajillion other things that are going to move more subscriptions for them than titties in Harem, for example, I think. But it's yeah.
But I got some more stuff I want to say about High Dive and AMC. Before we get into that, though, I just wanted to I have one quick question I wanted to throw to you guys just about the whole ArrowAnimeStore.com thing. So I have never been bold enough to try to purchase anything 18 plus off of RightStuf. It just seems
I have.
Like a risk, and it's not worth it.
Yeah,
a lot. I've bought a lot myself.
We have three different.
You never. It's always me.
It is almost always you, but the times that I've ordered have resulted in us owning 3 different copies of Temptation.
Oh my god!
Oh, congratulations!
The hentai that was dubbed by Dan Green using his Yu-Gi-Oh voice. I just need to bring that up at every opportunity.
That's why we bought, and actually we got it from RightStuf because that was the only place to find it. But yeah, it's his Yu-Gi-Oh voice.
Both of the voices. He's got 2 personas in it, and he uses the happy-go-lucky Yugi voice and the Yami Yugi voice. It's really something.
What I wanted to know is like, what has your experience generally been ordering 18 plus stuff from RightStuf from Canada, and how do you expect that might change when the stuff moves over to the new site, especially since it's now going to be a like dedicated 18 plus pornography site that might be a little trickier to order from over the border?
Yeah, so I've ordered from a lot of places, and it's my understanding that when they are an Arrow-specific store, you're going to have slightly harder time. They definitely have a tighter microscope on them. I've never had anything checked by customs from RightStuf, but every single time I order from the Faku store, and I think J-List's American location, not their Japanese location, but whenever I order from their American location, it always gets opened, regardless of whether or not it's 18+. So my guess is that company will probably end up with the same thing where all your stuff gets opened. I mean, I can't guarantee all of the stuff will get opened, but it is my understanding that when you focus totally on Arrow stuff, you'll definitely get looked at a little more. But yeah, with RightStuf, it's always been, I don't think I've ever had anything opened by customs when I've ordered from them. And I've had customs all up in my business.
Yeah, you have. You really have.
I had one of my J-List purchases confiscated by customs once. Mm-hmm. Straight confiscated.
So yeah. Faku too. One of our Faku orders.
Well, no, Faku's wasn't confiscated. Faku's just always gets opened. Whenever I order from Faku, they'll always open it, and like they'll all have that tape on it that says opened by CBSA. But yeah, so I'm sure that's probably what's going to end up happening. I can't guarantee it. I can't say for everybody, but based on my experience,
you never had any issue ordering stuff from RightStuf then?
Yeah, no, I don't think we ever had a single RightStuf package opened. But that's probably because they were never flagged as like the store that sells, like a place that is always shipping 18+ material.
Well, so that's interesting. Yeah, so I guess that'll create problems, especially when this Arrow anime store is also going to be carrying stuff that's not, technically by certain definitions, pornographic.
Which is the same thing that J-List does. J-List carries stuff that's like, they've got figures that are almost nude and nude figures, and they've got, Gravure magazines and porn magazines. But they're like registered. Yeah, they're marked as like 18+, I guess, in customs.
Yeah. It's just that companies that handle things that are 18+ material also have some material that they distribute that doesn't technically fall under that banner, but it's just going to be put in that category anyway. So, it just kind of creates this extra barrier, and who knows what their shipping policies are going to be like.
There's also payment processor limitations when you're focused only on 18+.
That as well.
You technically can't accept PayPal or Stripe when you're only selling 18+, or not only, but when your main focus is 18+ material, and if you're selling explicit pornography, you can't use Stripe checkout, you can't use PayPal checkout, so that will limit them as well.
I forget, does RightStuf use PayPal? I feel like I've used PayPal to order. I've used PayPal to order from them. So I was just thinking,
J-List does not allow PayPal for anything 18+. Mandarake doesn't. All those places are too scared to.
With RightStuf, when you do PayPal, you have to pay immediately, regardless of when your order ships. Whereas if you do it directly through credit card, it will charge when the order ships.
Right. That's why I'm like, I don't use. I have like, just little things about businesses in the back of my head, like don't use PayPal with that website, and like RightStuf is logged in my brain for that, but I forgot why. Thank you for reminding me.
But yeah, so I doubt that they might be limited in their payment processors, but again, won't know until we see it. Yeah, that was my other thought, is that they might be limited in that regard of who they can.
Yeah, that made me think like maybe that was part of the reason Crunchyroll did it, but they already had PayPal, so.
Yeah. So and that kind of brings me to the other thing I wanted to bring up, which is what's going on with the closest thing to a competitor that Sony and Crunchyroll have, which is HiDive. So they're owned by Sentai, of course, and Sentai was purchased by AMC recently. So this is likely going to result in some things changing. We haven't really seen anything change yet. So there's a new AMC Plus original series called Pantheon. It is going to be streamed on both AMC Plus and HiDive. So that's the closest thing. It's an American animated series. It was probably just an AMC production that just kind of got folded into both of them, which, is smart synergy for sure. But it's the closest thing to any synergy I've seen between these services happen so far. I've been waiting for, talking about plus sides of large corporations eating up small independent companies. I have been waiting for some kind of package deal to come up where we can get HiDive and Shudder under a single subscription price. They haven't delivered that yet. We've just been seeing a bunch of titles randomly disappearing from HiDive while they do maintenance that they're being very vague about, which has just been been frustrating. And I think also High Dive has been added as a channel on Amazon as well, but we're not really seeing the full slate of improvements that might be happening there.
That's really interesting, considering how almost everything on High Dive, like all of the big exclusives on High Dive, were originally things that Sentai like sub-licensed to Amazon as part of their attempt to take off.
Yeah. I will say this season in particular, I am watching more titles on High Dive than I am on Crunchyroll. I mean, this has been a bit of a stale season, as some people have been saying. Maybe you disagree, but I mean, you got Made in Abyss and Call of the Night on High Dive, where there's not quite as much going on Crunchyroll. And
Tokyo Mew Mew.
Tokyo Mew Mew new. Thank you, Yazy. So yeah, you got those titles. They, did pretty well this season for sure. It's probably going to be very different next season with your Chainsaw Mans and your My Hero Academias. I think under the new situation, it's definitely possible for High Dive to be at least somewhat competitive. It seems that they're still very committed to running the Sentai store. I think for physical media, and I think the Sentai store does still offer regular free shipping. I don't think they've canned that at all. My experience has been pretty good ordering from them personally for ordering Blu-rays and stuff.
Yeah, a huge chunk of our anime collection has been filled with just Sentai birthday sales and shit. Yeah.
And I wonder, especially since they have their own active store going, how much longer are we even going to see Sentai stuff available on, RightStuf / Crunchyroll store or whatever it's going to wind up being in the end? It feels like having a one-stop shop for all of that stuff might be coming to an end.
Well, so that's something I'm a little concerned about because I have heard that RightStuf doesn't just distribute their own stuff, that they also handle distribution for some of the other smaller anime publishers.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a different question.
You have stuff like Gundam where Nozomi doesn't really own the rights, but they are the physical media distributor. And I guess that's just going to fall under Crunchyroll.
Yeah, looking actually at their site, they do say that they do provide all the a bunch of stuff to smaller stores. Yeah. So they are like the distributor for a bunch of smaller anime stores too. So I wonder if that's gonna.
But I mean, I don't know if it depends. That might be compromised by Sony wanting to monopolize stuff, but it might also just make business sense for Sony to just keep that stuff running the same way that Amazon provides web services to a bunch of places that compete with Amazon, because it just makes more sense to get a little bit of that pie, like a little piece of everybody's pie instead of just trying to own the whole pie.
In addition to that, something I've been waiting to happen since AMC acquired High Dive and Sentai is for RLJ Entertainment to start actually distributing their DVDs and Blu-ray releases. If you're not familiar with them, they're the people who distribute AMC titles and Acorn Media titles. They're pretty much available in every store. You can buy that stuff. So if they start distributing Sentai titles, we might finally be able to get their stuff in stores like Walmart or Sunrise Records or Amazon.ca, where you just can't get them at all. Much like High Dive being folded into the other AMC streaming services, that hasn't happened yet. I'm presuming it's going to happen. I've tried reaching out to both companies about the status of that, but no updates yet. It would be nice to have other options for buying this stuff for sure, because it's not having Amazon.ca as an option is pretty annoying for a lot of people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not being in Amazon is also a big detriment to any of those brands, because it's just that's a huge place for people to discover new anime, is just through I bought this anime or I watched this anime on Amazon Prime. What else can what else is recommended to me based on that, right?
Yeah.
It would be, I want as much anime as possible available to as many people as possible all the time. That's just what I want. I want people to be able to discover cool shit that Sentai has, like Princess Tutu, for example.
Yeah, I was definitely hoping that they might start running like Monster Musume on AMC or something. Just have a marathon of that every Sunday. But it doesn't seem that's the direction they're going to be going with that partnership. But we'll, I think that's still developing. It seems to be happening really slowly. So keep an eye on it. Might be easier to get that stuff soon. Another thing I wanted to touch on is something that's obviously declining in importance a little bit, which is broadcast anime. Toonami in the States is not quite what it used to be, but we're all eagerly anticipating Uzumaki, I think. It was confirmed that that's actually going to run on Adult Swim Canada whenever it starts. And I got to emphasize that is important because Crunchyroll is not a part of that co-production, unlike the previous ones, like Blade Runner. That one is only being done through Adult Swim. So in all likelihood, if you want to be able to watch that or any of the upcoming Adult Swim original anime, like you're going to have to do it through one of the janky channels that Chorus lets you watch them through. So you gotta, subscribe to Stack TV through Amazon, which is, pretty expensive.
I'm like losing track of all of the places that Canadians need to subscribe for things that are alternatives to the American things.
Yeah,
it's really confusing.
The problem is that like Chorus just won't make a proper streaming channel. They have to have these janky alternatives that you pay way too much for, and they still have ads, or you have to have a cable subscription and input that information to be able to watch it, and still have to sit through ads. When they made the decision to shut down Show Me, I think that was like one of the stupidest decisions they could have possibly made, because
heard of that.
Yeah, Show Me was Shaw and Chorus's streaming service. That had a bunch of titles, but it folded like right before this whole trend of every company having their own streaming service popped up. So now they just kind of have nothing, and I think to a lot of people, they perceive that content as just not really being available, because if something's not on a on-demand streaming service with no ads so that you can subscribe to easily, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's again, you have it's great that it would be broadcast, but the availability is going to be a little spotty if you don't know how to hunt for it, which is unfortunate. But I think it is important that Chorus has some of that stuff, because they have a lot of promotional power. I don't know if you guys noticed the extent that they went through to promote Blade Runner Black Lotus, which of course wasn't very good, but they definitely made people aware of the fact that it was coming, and that there were ways to watch it. And apparently it actually performed pretty well, at least for a little while, on their channels, as difficult as they are to use. And it would be great if they gave that same weight to Uzumaki, but almost as quickly as Uzumaki was confirmed to be airing here through Adult Swim Canada, it's also confirmed that it's been delayed yet again. It was supposed to start this October, and now it's been pushed back to 2023, because Hiroshi Nagahama's just got to if you give him as much time as he wants to work on something, he'll take it. So they're going to be working on those 4 episodes for even longer.
I'm all for it, honestly. Yeah. They're trying something genuinely new with the art style, like the art direction of it, which is, that's a big challenge, and I want them to have time to get that right.
Yeah, they're effectively animating the show twice. They're rotoscoping it and then animating it over the rotoscoping in a unique way to replicate the atmosphere of the manga, which frankly is probably the kind of extreme measure you have to take to translate Junji Ito's stuff to animation, because everyone who has tried to do it has failed so far.
Yeah, no, I it really doesn't bother me. They can take as long as they want with that show, because I care way more about it actually living up to the manga than I do about getting it anytime soon.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I could just read the manga again. I am perfectly happy to just read the manga again. But you can count on one hand the number of truly successful horror manga to horror anime adaptations, because just the loss in art quality that you get moving from static pages to animation is so much that it destroys the atmosphere of most every horror anime I've seen attempted, but especially Ito's stuff, because his art is so immaculately detailed, and he puts so much effort into the shading and everything.
Anime is such a versatile medium, but horror is something it doesn't handle that well most of the time unless you do something really innovative. So I have high hopes for it, and a lot of people do. Junji Ito has a lot of buzz. I trust that whenever this show is ready, Chorus is going to promote the hell out of it. They've already mentioned it in press releases, which is frankly stunning, because they usually didn't even bother to mention anime in their press releases a lot of the time, even back in the Bionics days. So it's something to be excited about, and I hope that it gets more people interested in it and generates a lot of buzz. The fact that it's getting pushed back so far is a little frustrating, especially since the Toonami brand in the States is sort of declining now. They can't get as much content because Sony's just being more difficult. The whole block is usually just a couple of new shows and then One Piece and Naruto reruns, which I'm sure works for them, but it definitely seems to be a declining brand.
Yeah.
And
it was gone for a while too, I think. I don't know too much about them.
It's been since they came back in 2013, it's been consistent, and we're all hoping that one day there might be a Toonami in Canada. It's looking very unlikely now with the state of things, unless
long ago they came back.
Yeah, they've been so back longer than they were gone, which is incredible.
I didn't know much about them. I was in America when they came back, so all of my friends were like, "Wah!"
Yeah, if anything, it's a testament to how influential and important anime on TV still is. I mean, it's declined so much, but it's still chugging along. And at this time when Discovery Warner is in such a chaotic state, everything that they own is in total flux right now, with shows being canceled, things being pulled off of their streaming services. Everything is really uncertain. Toonami is still chugging along. I think Uzumaki is probably the most high-profile thing they have coming up in the near future, and that's really probably going to determine the future of the block. It might be the climax for anime on North American television. And
might be.
Yeah. If it is, frankly, I'm glad that we're going to be able to watch it, because that's definitely something I'm going to watch live, no matter what measures I have to take, because I'm probably not going to actually have a cable subscription.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, just throwing it out there to everyone, if you know somebody who has a cable subscription, or you have a family member or something, see if you can get their login and log into the global app, because you can just watch Adult Swim Canada that way. It's the easiest thing to do. But unfortunately, we're not going to get this. Yeah. There is an anime that Adult Swim Canada will be running on October 1st, Housing Complex C. It's a new original horror show, which probably would have been hit a little harder if they could have paired it with Uzumaki, but now it's a new untested IP that's going to be kind of probably just thrown up there with little promotion. Something to keep an eye on for sure if you do want to support anime on broadcast television. It'll be on midnight on Saturday night starting October 1st. It's 4 episodes.
Midnight? I'm so old. Midnight is midnight.
It's midnight Eastern time, so it'll be a little earlier for us, thankfully. Not for everyone though, but it's there, and it'll be on there on demand too. So if you want to, support anime being distributed by major Canadian media companies, definitely keep your eye on Housing Complex C. And it's really uncertain where all that's going to go, because as I touched on, there's this big to-do going on with Warner in the States right now. With I'm sure you guys have heard of all that stuff's getting pulled off of HBO Max.
Oh yeah, we've heard it.
Yeah. Definitely exposing the weaknesses of the streaming industry. It's interesting because all this stuff's getting written off for tax purposes, which is, everyone's, pointing fingers at Discovery and their CEO, David Zaslav, about that. When in reality, this is something that Warner has done with their properties for years. They did this write-off thing with Megas XLR and Symbionic Titan years ago. That's really limited their availability.
That's why you can't watch Megas XLR?
Yeah, that's what happened with it. Yeah.
it's the same problem. I have been wondering for years. Why that sucks. That sucks.
I think you can still get it through iTunes.
I mean, iTunes has like stuff that's available for purchase on YouTube occasionally.
Yeah,
has become like the last bastion for a lot of things.
Worth emphasizing that download to own, even though it's usually heavily stigmatized because, of course, you don't really own it. But a lot of the stuff that's otherwise unavailable is available there. You can get all of Infinity Train on there. That's actually how I first got it, because I just bought it there because it was the easiest way to watch that show. It's pricier. Like I'm hesitant to like buy all of something like OKKO on YouTube or on iTunes just because it gets pretty pricey for something again, don't technically
are really
own.
High, actually.
Yeah, they have sales sometimes. Keep an eye on it. Keep stuff on your watch list if you want to get it that way. Because honestly, even if you want to pirate it, a lot of that stuff's hard to find even to pirate.
Mm-hmm.
All this shit is going on with this service in the U.S. and it's interesting because all these problems are just happening in the U.S. They actually aren't affecting other countries, which sort of highlights the fact that online streaming is really just a thing that's focused on the United States, and all other markets are kind of an afterthought. And it's also interesting that whenever we get more access to things in Canada or in other countries, it's usually not because existing services are expanding. It's because they're getting bought out by other bigger services that already have access here.
Yeah, the places that are big enough to reach Canada already are just taking their time snapping up everybody who's not.
Yeah, it's all a big mess. I don't know what's going to happen with all this. The speculation right now is that Warner's going to basically consolidate HBO Max and Discovery Plus into one new service that will be more versatile. I think they're probably just going to convert Discovery Plus into a new thing, and because it's already available in multiple regions. The thing about HBO Max is that, obviously everything is happening on there, and the way it's impacting the artists and people and industry people who made content for there. It's really unfortunate, but the reality is HBO Max from the beginning was a really poorly thought out streaming service as far as international viability goes. Because why would you base your major online streaming service on a brand that you don't control and likely will not be able to control in every region around the world? It's just such a bad idea. It just seemed like something was going to give eventually. And now something is giving, and it's giving in the worst way possible. It is possible that whatever comes out of the ashes from that will have like Adult Swim content or Cartoon Network content streaming. But I'm not going to get my hopes up for that. It would be a pretty unfortunate. Again, we would get access to this stuff in the most unfortunate way possible. That's kind of been the trend with online streaming. It's a harsh world and a harsh business.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like maybe I've gotten too okay with the idea of download to own things. Sometimes I think about that, and I'm like, man, streaming companies have convinced me that like there's streaming and then there's downloading it from them, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Sometimes I think about that, and I'm like, man, I don't actually own this, and the streaming companies have convinced me that they're streaming it and that downloading it is owning it.
Home video is still the best. Still the best way to own something if you want to own it.
I just came to that. I was like, wow, I completely normalized. I was like, yeah, I own it. I bought the digital, I bought we bought it on YouTube or whatever. And I'm like,
and I mean, the thing is, you do own it. You own it right up until you don't. Right up until PT gets delisted or they stop selling the Deadpool game or. I mean, that came back, and Scott Pilgrim came back eventually. But even download to own is. I mean, even physical media like that will degrade eventually, right?
A Blu-ray disc at the very least will probably last for our lives as long as we're alive. Some early DVDs. Not going to be so lucky with those. Probably already not working. But, there's going to be a limit to everything. Even if you pirate everything, you have to, have adequate hard drive space. You have to be able to back up your library. You have to have redundancy. And that takes a lot of work.
And you have to hope somebody else is seeding it too, so you can even get it.
Yeah, exactly.
The torrent route,
Yeah, but I mean, that is the thing. You do have to hope that somebody is seeding it. But the thing is, only one person needs to seed something for that to be preserved in that form, right? Like, the more people seeding, the better. But I mean, for like personal uses, owning the Blu-ray's fine. That's good. But like, for the sake of like long-term preservation, I'm just becoming increasingly convinced that like streaming isn't just not good for that, but in some ways is like actively detrimental to preservation.
Yeah, streaming has never been good for preservation, and I think anyone who has ever believed that has been horribly misled. It is good for exposure, though. It's still one of the best ways to expose something and get people to engage with it and demonstrate its popularity. And that kind of brings me to the last thing I wanted to talk to today, which is that overall, we've talked a lot over the years about how streaming situations have been not always great for anime in Canada. And they're a lot better now. And again, a lot of it's because companies are getting bought out by other companies that have better distribution channels in Canada and in other regions than the smaller companies that owned them before, which is unfortunate, but it does, it benefits consumers in Canada to an extent. So there, you have that positive element. It's worth noting, going back to Crunchyroll, that for years they've had this weird policy in Canada only, where after 13 weeks everything goes behind a paywall. But now they're starting to just put everything behind a paywall for everybody. So it seems that they're going to solve the inequity problem in Canada of not being able to access those titles by just spreading it everywhere and making sure nobody can watch anything unless they have a subscription. So I guess that means maybe we were the testing ground for one of the worst case scenarios. Again, example of things improving in Canada by going down in quality everywhere else. But even though we can access most things now, there's still one major title that, for some reason, they just won't let Canada have, despite the fact that it has a strong reputation. Inuyasha. You can watch the first 2 seasons of Inuyasha on Netflix and on Crunchyroll, and I think on Funimation too, as long as that's around. But anything beyond that, including Inuyasha: The Final Act, has never been made available for streaming in Canada. And it seems that nobody is interested in doing anything about that. Guys, what do you think? What do you think about that situation? And do you think there's anything we could do about it? Do you think who do we need to yell at to make this happen? It's a Hulu exclusive.
I was just thinking, I think after the second season was when it started to become spotty in Canada for like viewers, like for like having it on TV. So perhaps part of it has to do with the fact that people think Canada doesn't fucking care, since we could only watch that far anyway.
I mean, let's be honest, like the first 2 seasons are the best part. Inuyasha, for sure. And I think for anyone who wants a quick nostalgia fix, having access to those first 54 episodes is probably going to satiate you. I don't think very many people, the number of people who will proceed to watch the whole thing are lower. But I mean, even during the pandemic, if like, say, Crave, in addition to licensing Sailor Moon, which I need to throw out there that Sailor Moon has definitely been very successful for Crave. I have noticed that we've talked a lot about their whole partnership with WoW Unlimited. WoW Unlimited actually was the company that licensed Sailor Moon. They kind of don't exist anymore, and their partnership with Crave has ended. But
Crave, was it the Sailor Moon? Was it the Deke dub though, or was it the other one?
No, it is the Viz dub.
We had that problem. We had that problem like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. We wanted to watch the goddamn Deke dub because that's what
a lot of people wanted. Unfortunately, the Deke dub is just gone. Like
also the Cardcaptor Sakura dub that Canadians had.
Yeah,
the Ocean dub.
Yeah. The Ocean dub for Cardcaptors is gone.
Sorry, that was very.
That's okay.
That just popped into my brain as like a Canadian thing that
we
I wish I could
did a whole episode on Cardcaptors, and we go into that. The version that's on Netflix is a Hong Kong dub that was produced in the late 90s, and it's not quite uncut. There's some segments where they didn't dub apart. They're usually they're the gay parts. Where the audio
Stuff
just
that
suddenly
wasn't safe for Canadian eyes.
no for Southeast Asia.
So it's not even so I remember NIS America put out a Card Captor Blu-ray set a while ago with a dub on it. Was that the same dub that ended up on there?
Yeah, it's the same dub, and there are blank, like on that NIS release, there are scenes where the audio just goes blank when you're watching the dub.
Know.
Because it's gay.
Yeah, because it gets too gay. I think they actually dubbed those scenes, but they got cut, and then they were just never able to restore it. But yeah, that's what happened with Card Captors. With Sailor Moon, the deep dub, unfortunately, is just not available.
I just miss her. I won't even I don't even argue that our Card Captor dub was better. I just miss her. I wish I could. I miss that exact tone that she would go Caro in but Tori and stuff, and
that dub was well cast.
I have her exact voice in my brain, and I wish I could hear it again.
Yeah, for sure.
I could watch it somewhere.
Yeah, I've said this before. I kind of wish that when Geneon put out that second movie that they had gotten the Ocean cast back to do like a proper uncut dub for that. I think that really would have been great with those actors coming back and just kind of being able to do it more authentically. But unfortunately, it never happened, and we're just getting less Ocean stuff now. But yeah, with Sailor Moon, Crave had it through a partnership with WoW, but I noticed, because I look at these things too closely, that the WoW logo was removed from Sailor Moon at the same time that WoW content was just being pulled completely from Crave. So they actually pulled in that license to hang on to it. Obviously, because it's probably doing very well. You see, it's mentioned in promotional materials. It's like one of the crown jewels of kids content on that service right now, regardless of what you think of the Viz dub. So it's obviously done well for them. And I was hoping that they would get Inuyasha, because if they had gotten that during the pandemic or during the lockdown periods of the pandemic, like people would just hunker down and watch all of Inuyasha. If you're ever going to watch through all of Inuyasha, it's like in that kind of situation is when you're going to do it. That was around
the time when Yashahime ended too, so
yeah.
I think it was around the time Yashahime ended at least, so it would have been a really good go back in nostalgia.
Exactly. And again, Final Act is never streamed or broadcast here. So like, what gives? Why won't anyone do anything to solve this problem?
Who is responsible for this? We need to know.
It's a good question. Like, Hulu has the rights in the States. It's possible that they have like the North American rights and it's just locked down and they won't share it with anyone. It's also possible that Viz still has the Canadian rights and just won't go through the extra effort of getting it onto another service up here, which is what happened with Sailor Moon for years. Crunchyroll, why won't they just license the rest of it and just put it in Canada only? I don't know. Netflix could do it. They could get the rest of the seasons and put it up and just make it available as a Canada only thing. Haven't done it yet. But Inuyasha is this one weird exception, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. And
it was so big in Canada too. Like, that's the thing that like if Sailor Moon is taking off and doing numbers for Crave, then Inuyasha definitely will too. Because those two audiences, huge overlap in Canada.
When we talk about anime that was, specifically highly successful or had a huge cultural impact in Canada specifically, we always think of Sailor Moon, just because it took off in such a unique way a few years before it did in other English-speaking markets. But I think that Inuyasha's success here was comparable. It's not more popular here than it was in the United States, but I would say that it hit different when it debuted here, just because of the way YTV aired it, the time slot it aired in, the audience it reached. It was like one of the top Google searches for a couple of years when it debuted, at a time when you would not see anime ranking high on that kind of list in either Canada or the US or most countries.
Yeah, I think when Inuyasha first started airing, the only other anime they had, besides like the anime that people didn't see as anime, like Pokemon and Sailor Moon. Like, people didn't see Sailor Moon when they were kids as like anime. They saw it as like the other style of cartoon. But the only other like anime they had when Inuyasha was airing was Gundam Seed and Witch Hunter Robin, I think.
Well, they had Inuyasha they licensed those shows from Bandai because of the success of Inuyasha. Yeah.
Inuyasha was just like a late night show on YTV, I remember, and then Bionics grew around that.
Yeah, they had Escaflowne, they had Gundam Wing before that. Both successful to an extent, but
Inuyasha was like the big one.
They just weren't a like Toonami style success, the way that you were seeing with shows in the States and in the UK and some other countries as well. But Inuyasha was the first show that finally kind of had that kind of success and reach, the way that shows on Toonami and Adult Swim did in the United States. So it hit different, it hit broader. I think it had I don't want to say a more mainstream appeal, but it definitely reached audiences that weren't expecting it in a different way than shows that preceded it did. And I think that that's sort of been erased.
And we deserve to be able to watch it, damn it.
Yeah.
We do.
And I think it's just a huge missed opportunity. So if anybody listening to this, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm realizing I've never even seen Final Act because it never aired here. Yeah.
I've never bothered
Yeah, it was such a huge when it came out. I was like, oh, when it comes to Crunchyroll, I'll watch it, and then it didn't. So I downloaded one episode to check it out, and the pacing was really weird, and I just had no.
It's really fast paced, but I want to see it, but I can't be compelled to
figure it out,
pirate it or purchase it, because I don't care that much to do either of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things you want to watch when you're sitting around being like, what should I put on?
Yeah.
Not something you want to which should be there for us, damn it.
But I mean, what can we do to fix this? Who can we bug? Like, should we be bugging Viz about this?
Whose house should I be protesting out front of?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
For real. We gotta, this is what we should take a convoy to Ottawa for. Getting Inuyasha back on TV. God damn it, Justin Trudeau, where is my dog boy?
There is one other possibility that I thought of, and there's a big question up in the air right now, is Disney Plus's plans for anime, because there is a rumor right now, it is a rumor, not verified, but that they're going to have the new Bleach when that starts running.
Unverified?
It is not confirmed. And I also need to make it clear, Viz has the rights to that new Bleach. It is, unless something drastic has happened in the last year, Viz is the company that's distributing it. So if Disney Plus,
I was confused by that because that was like, I saw them announce that it was on Disney Plus, and like they are a new player, so it like made sense to me that maybe that maybe the 1,000-Year Blood War project is considered a different production committee or something and has like different licensing rights.
Yeah, I mean it does, but again, it is Viz is the licenser. If Disney Plus is streaming it, they are the broadcaster, or they are the streaming service that sub-licensed it. So it's not, they're not going to own it if that happens. But as we all know, Viz has been very cozy with Hulu over the years, which is why for the longest time we couldn't see most of their stuff. That's been solved for almost every title except Inuyasha so far. And since Disney owns Hulu right now, and I think they're definitely in a very long process of slowly absorbing Hulu into Disney Plus in the US, which probably isn't going to happen for a long time because Hulu is just so ridiculously profitable with their weird ad-based digital model that only works in the US and doesn't work in any other country on earth, which is why it creates such a weird problem when it comes to international distribution for their original titles. But this could be like, if Disney Plus does have it, it could be an evolution of Viz's relationship with Hulu. And if stuff, and I'm curious to see if when Disney Plus finally gets their own original anime up, like Summertime Rendering, which is just in Disney Plus jail right now. I wonder if like Hulu backlog titles are gonna pop up on there. I wonder if Disney Plus could be the home to Inuyasha.
It would be interesting if they ended up tapping Viz's translation, like their localization infrastructure to like start doing. I mean, Disney probably will never do simulcasts, but like start doing more timely releases or put out more competent dubs of stuff. Because, like, I remember the Disney Plus release for Star Wars Visions. The Disney Plus release for that was absolute garbage. Like, the only way that you could watch with subtitles was with closed captions, which is just unacceptable, right? Like if you have a foreign language product, put proper subtitles, not closed captions, please. But like, also just like, I mean, the dub was pretty good, but if you wanted to watch it in Japanese, you were just so hamstrung in every possible way. I honestly think that that's like the worst subbed anime watching experience I've had on a major platform. And like, I tried to watch anime on Amazon. I've watched anime on like pretty much every platform there is. And like, yeah, that's just the worst one I've seen. And I mean, Amazon was screwing it up for years. You know, Netflix used to be real bad for anime too, but just like, they really didn't get it at all. And that worries me for them having stuff like Summertime Rendering and possibly Bleach. Yeah. But hopefully Viz can, you know, if they work with Viz, that could correct that. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah. So like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm not going to do these news roundup episodes where we just touch on the same issues over and over and over again. But I just want to take this opportunity to give, once again, emphasis to this Inuyasha problem. I don't know if anybody who works for Crunchyroll or Viz or Hulu or Disney Plus will ever listen to this episode. Probably not. Or if anybody who knows somebody who does will listen to this episode. Or if you work for Bell or Crave or know someone who does. Please, if you know somebody you can hound about this, please do. I think it's if I'm gonna pick one stupid hill to die on in this chaotic world with bigger problems to worry about, I'm gonna pick Inuyasha streaming in Canada. I think we need to do something about this, please.
That's a noble cause.
Before the apocalypse happens and society collapses, just get Inuyasha on streaming.
I just want to watch Inuyasha one more time before the end.
Sango and Moroku happy ending. All right, I deserve it, and I never got to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Inuyasha before we wrap up? Or any of this other stuff?
My only thought is Sango and Moroku forever. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm...
That's my only thought.
I'm hungry, so let's wrap up. Guys, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you on the internet? I think they have a number of options.
Yes, they do. So they can find me at youtube.com/mothersbasement and us at, I don't know what the youtube.com/URL is, but the Basement Life Podcast.
Have one yet.
We don't have one yet. And then
I am Best Girl Yazy everywhere. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Best Girl Yazy. That's me.
Or Best Girl's Basement.
Best Girl Yazy.
Yes,
you can find it that way. Much easier.
I'll include some links somewhere. I think people know where to find you guys. Thanks for tuning into Zun in Canada. You can reach me on Twitter at jbetteridge or email zunincanada@gmail.com. The theme song is by Ultraclystron and can be found on his album Packet Flood, which you can find at ultraclystron.com. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. See you again.
And get Inuyasha back to us, please.
Yes, please. Do it.
This people, we will come to your house. Not really, but we will. Give us Inuyasha.
Now cluck like a chicken.
What?
A chicken! No!